with the mayor here still. There she go. Well, again, just to kind of summarize, and I want to thank the folks who just came out today. It is about community. I'm going to make sure, and it's in the time of COVID, it's been challenging, but I want to say we're coming through that. We're talking about we're one day closer to spring here. There's going to be some cold days before we get there, and the same thing with COVID, but we're moving now. And it's challenged us. 2020 has frayed this country. It's frayed us politically. It's frayed us economically. It's been difficult. But once again, the choice is for us to make the choices that previous generations made, to figure out a way to get together, to solve the problem and move forward. Because again, this is the hardest thing to do. I always remember that quote that Winston Churchill said, this is the worst form of government ever, except for every other one. And then he said, the thing is, you can always count on America to get it right after they try everything else first. And there's a bit of that. It's a stubbornness to it. That is the uniqueness of the American spirit, if you will, that everything seems possible, but we're very individualistic. We're very focused, and all those things are good. But in times of turmoil, we're always stronger together. So, Mayor, I wanted to say thank you to you for having us here. Thank you to this great community and these three memorials that stand here to remind us of past times, and that commitment that we're going to get through this, and it's our generation that's going to be judged on. What did we leave to the next generation? I see we have some young people. I brought my daughter today on purpose to try and see some of this. It's tough, and there's going to be hard conversations going forward, but we've done it, and we can do it again. So thank you to our speakers who told these stories, pass those on, and I'd be glad to have the mayor answer some questions. So no, she's good at it. But just anything, again, thank you to our press for telling the story. And I do have to comment on this. If you didn't see it, it's very heartbreaking, and those members of the press who are here, the assault last Wednesday, and it's a place I know very well, the U.S. Capitol, there's that speaker's lobby where someone was killed, and that balcony of where the press gallery is, were one of the first targets that were attacked, and the cameras were broken, and our journalists were there. Because, again, as all of us know, those in elected position hold an immense responsibility to the people they represent. But to make sure that they're doing it and that everything's told, it takes a check and balance of a free press to ask the questions. So, fire away.
I have a question. I'm kind of keeping with the theme of history. You mentioned that what happened last week is near unprecedented. But I'm wondering how you think about and how you distinguish and how you compare this moment in history to our previous stuff.
Yeah.
Because
the question was thinking about the historical context. I'm a high school history teacher. I will not claim to be an expert on things, but it's a focus. Those of you who are interested in history know what this is. And one of the things is I would always tell my students when they'd pick up their book to put it in front of their face and they'd say, I can't see it. That's because it's too close. And as it starts to go away, it becomes clearer. I, for one, will just say, I'm going through immense emotions every day this goes on. The way I felt last Wednesday is different from the way I feel now as we start to see more. So the question was, how does this event going to fit in our past history, and what will it mean going forward? And I think the really candid answer is I don't know yet. I don't know because the history hasn't been written. But what I always said is that, and especially with Minnesotans I would say this, we are not really a people that fear the future, we create it. And I would say if we want to create our own history, we're going to have to decide right now. And I recognize, as all of you, each of us are in this, but I have a unique responsibility as governor to figure out. I think, and I would say, I would hope there would be a change in how elected officials use the voice that they use. There's a sense of tempering what you say with a recognition. And I can tell you over the last 9 months, I know this very clearly. When you're elected official, not everybody voted for you or really likes what you're doing. They're pretty clear about that. But you have a responsibility to represent them to the very best of your ability regardless of that. And I think what I hope happens out of this is a realignment how we view this. Politics is not a sport where you have to win. It is not the goal to defeat the other side. The goal is to find working compromises that get things done. I don't need to do a debate where I beat someone and prove to them that I knew something more. I also think this gives us an opportunity to get to a point. We have to agree on a certain set of facts and truth that are simply the way things are and go from there. We can't just simply disregard where that's at. So I think it's too soon to tell. I think it's going to be hugely consequential. I think Chair Van Nett, not just it being her birthday, I think for the rest of us, I think it's safe to say that it'll be a date that is not forgotten. I'm interested to see if it's viewed as an inflection point of where things change, or if it dates where things, and this can happen if we don't do this right, where things continue to get worse.
Yeah.
I don't think we should just assume. And again, this is the American side of it. I tell people this all the time. My favorite movie is The Martian, because we'll just science our way out of this. We'll just figure it out. We're just Americans. We can do it. I don't care what it is. We'll figure it out. That is one of our strongest strengths. That's an American trait that was passed down to me by previous generations. But I think there's an Achilles heel in that of believing, as you went down this line from the Civil War all the way down, that it'll just work out okay. There's no guarantee that that'll happen. We're going to have to make it happen. So, and when I say we, I'm looking right at myself, too. Yes?
How do you think impeachment and potential conviction fits in that, President?
Pardon me?
How do you think an impeachment fits in that path forward?
Well, I think it's sad, the question on the impeachment. I think it is sad. And some of you have listened to me, I don't use my social media accounts and I don't use the platform of governor to beat up a lot of times. I'll disagree and I'll call things out where I don't think they're right, but I don't use it for that. But I will have to say, telling the American public that a fair and free election that has been adjudicated time and time again has stoked division beyond anything. And I think when you're the president or you're the governor, if there's things that are allowed to happen that are clearly against the principles of the country, there has to be an accountability. Now, I understand people say, well, all you're going to do is make it worse and move it on. Worse than pulling down the flag off the United States Capitol and foisting one with someone's name on it? Worse than the killing of a Capitol police officer? People I worked alongside for 12 years that I know. So I think that the accountability has to happen. But I think most of us know a lot of this could be healed up if folks would just clear up some of this. Like I said, I've been on the losing side of elections. But what happened here was a fair and free election, and more people voted for one person over the other. That's not the end of the world. That's America. That's a new day. And I think if we could start to put that to rest, that would be a good thing. And maybe this piece does that. But let's be very clear. If anybody's feeling a lot of joy or if there's vengeance in this, that's going to lead to a really bad place, because there's no joy in seeing an American president impeached.
What sort of new legislation are you going to be putting in place for COVID-19?
Yeah, the COVID question of making sure, and again, I want to thank Minnesotans. We brought that curve down. Keep in mind that we were at 98.5% hospital capacity on the 15th of December. Those morgue trucks that you see pulling up in California, that was always the fear we didn't want to get to. And I just want to give credit where credit is due. First and foremost to Minnesotans who did the basic things of social distancing, masking when they're inside, getting tested, but also a thank you to a hospital system that's very robust. The good news is the vaccines are starting to roll out. And I just want to be very clear about this. The federal government had a plan in place that was passed to the states. The states don't get to decide how many vaccines they get. The federal government gives them to us. So we plan accordingly. The federal government set out a plan with medical ethicists and others that said vaccinate hospital workers first and the elderly in long-term care, and then get ready for the next phase. Well, 48 hours ago, they changed all that. and they said get it out to people age 65 and above and those with pre-existing conditions. And here's what I want to tell you is we as a country have to move as quickly as we can on this. But what it means for Minnesota is we have a population in the state of 5.7 million. If you remove those under age 16 who are not being advised to take the vaccine, that leaves us about 3.8 million people. After Tuesday, the government has put 2.1 million people in line, and they sent us 65,000 vaccines. Now that will increase and start to go, but the quicker we're able to do that and the quicker we're able to change, and I think you can anticipate seeing this, that there will be the desire that when it again comes into the state, our expectations is that it gets out. But just to be clear, the federal government doesn't ship most of it to the state. It ships it to Walgreens, and it ships it to CVC, who are vaccinating long-term care. It ships it to the VA hospital. It ships it to Indian Health Care, or it ships to the hospitals. What we're going to try and do is see if it's possible to maybe purchase more, if that's going to be possible, from the manufacturers. The good news is it sounds like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is going to get approval by the end of the month. They should start to come online, and I think if the administration uses Defense Production Act or something to step these up. So I think in response to where you're at, if we tough this thing a little bit more, we've got our restaurants open at 50%, which again, I want to be very clear with folks who are hearing this. 49 out of 50 states are in a state of emergency. The state of Minnesota, as far as economic activity, has always been in the top half of being economic activities that are open. Our rate of infections still continues to be in the bottom half of where states are at, and our hospital capacity is as broad as most states have. So we're in a good position. We're in a good position to push for the next several months. We're in a good position to have the infrastructure to get those vaccines out. And I think my hope is what I've been saying, by the time we're standing here in shorts and T-shirts, we're doing it next together, maybe without masks, going into restaurants together. Our kids are getting back in school this week, so there's a lot of good.
One more question.
Yep.
Going forward, going back to what happened at the Capitol, there's a lot of talk about trying to heal from that. And what do you see as the best first steps in our country trying to heal from?
Yep. Well, I need folks, and there's a lot of them. I need folks to tell folks who supported them that this election was fair, it was free, it was monitored, and that's the way it came out. I think that's the first step. I think we need to put that to rest. And I'm not telling people, I don't want people to, whether you're on the left or the right, if you hold deeply held beliefs about how things should be done, keep those, and let's work on those, and let's debate those. But we're not going to have a debate and delegitimizing a election. That's the first start. And then I think we come back to this, and I'm asking all of you to do this. I know when I put a budget forward, I'm not going to get everything I want. I also know when I put proposals out, I hope they're based on science and where people are at in the best interest of Minnesotans, but I recognize other people have some different opinions on that too. I think as a society, I'm not asking you to find a wishy-washy center. I'm not asking you to give up your deepest held beliefs, but I'm asking you to say that to move progress forward, there's a few things that we're just going to have to compromise on, move forward, and get done. And I think the first step is acknowledging that elections matter and people are elected, and that acknowledging that you're not going to get your way every time, but the public expects us to get something done. And I come back to this. Sometimes it's very simple. Educate our kids to the best of the ability, fix our damn roads, give us an opportunity to make a living, and stay out of our way the best you can. Because I, for one, am just going to tell you, I want to turn on the TV where the business of government is being done by folks who are transparent, clear, working together, and I don't really care what their ideology is, and I want it to be boring and move on so that we can get on with our lives. I don't want this occupying every minute of our lives. It does not have to be this crisis situation where we're in a fight to the death about everything. Let's just figure out how we do this fairly, how we come back to those principles of this country, and how we recognize that there's a whole lot of people made a whole lot of sacrifices so that we could actually have this debate. And so my pledge to you is, as always, I know I won't please you, I'll disappoint you, at times. I know that will happen. But I've always said this. I hope I'm able to do it in the spirit of doing it with the dignity of those who've come before us and sacrificed for us, and that the outcome is what matters, that there are results that we can look to and move on. So thanks for having me up here. Mayor, thank you. Council Chair, thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. We got to get this.
Nice visit.
No, I'm really
Sure.
Yeah. Can I get I want